All right, so our topic today is retrieval practice, unleash the science of learning. And I am serving as the facilitator for this, and am letting you know that much of the information here is from the website for retrieval practice. And I'll give you more information about linking to that and finding that and some of the amazing resources that are available there. So, as we move forward in this today, we're going to talk about what retrieval practice is and why we want to consider using it. And in doing that, we'll be thinking about our students' study skills and how this applies to that. We'll be taking a look at examples of some of the strategies, some of the research, and a few of the myriad of resources that they have available for us. And then we'll share our ideas and hopefully a plan to implement them. So, and this is directly from one of the articles from the website. An active attempt by a student to recall or recognize and then reconstruct their memory of knowledge during initial learning. And retrieval practice is low stakes or no stakes. It helps our students commit items into long-term memory. Most of you realize that things that we see and hear are immediately in short-term memory. What we do then is what determines whether or not they go into long-term memory. Retrieval practice supports and encourages higher order thinking, as well as giving a foundation for transfer of knowledge, because transfer is one of the key things that we want to produce in our students. As novice learners, they are not always comfortable with doing that, and so it's one of the skills that we want to encourage and focus with them. And so this is a really important key item. Retrieval practice is a learning strategies, not an assessment strategy. If indeed we use something that is low stakes, it should be really, really low stakes. And we'll talk a little more about that. Retrieval practice, the use of various types of retrieval practice brings the information to mind. It helps us bring something forward, as it said, pulling information out of our mind rather than pulling it in. And it has a foundation, a background foundation of 100 years of research, although most of the most effective research has been fairly recently. And as I said earlier, it transforms learning, helps us transform the things that we have learned or the things that we hear on a pretty much recent immediate basis into long-term learning, which is, of course, our ultimate goal for student success. And it uses things like low stakes quizzes, flashcards. We'll talk about some of the other tools in a bit. We typically focus on getting information into our students' brains. After all, that's why we're standing up there, right? Or they're virtually. But this focuses on getting information out. If they can pull the information out and jot it down, then it reinforces the learning process. And so a simple switch from here's what we did last week to what did we do last week, which is why I use the question that I did to open things up. What did we do in a previous session? And I will give everybody your low stakes points for responding, because we did not have a PD session last Monday because last Monday was Labor Day. And the one before that was indeed with Larry Mello on the GIS, one of the library sessions. And if you did not get the information on that, please let me know. And I will be more than happy to send you the whole raft of information that I shared after that session, because he presented a lot and we had a whole lot of links. So that would be something that you will want to have access to. I don't think it's in our PD playlist yet, but it will be very soon. Also, all of your, like I said, all of your answers are absolutely correct. There were no wrong answers. The ones on supporting student learning skills was indeed one from June or July, one from we did during the summer, because the one that we did with Larry 2 weeks ago was our first one for fall semester. This is again a recommendation from the website for 3 key questions to ask your students, which gives us a metacognitive approach, which was another topic we've talked about recently. So the first question would be, how do you study? Why do you study this way? And does it work? And this, in all likelihood, would be a question that might come as questions that might come as something of a surprise to your students for you to be asking that. So there's some tips, some ways of getting them to think about their own thinking about their own studying, their study skills. So this is from some of their research, and I will, as I said, be sharing some of the research articles they had. The majority of K-12, college, and medical school students report that rereading and highlighting during class or while they're studying outside of class is a primary resource. And we're going to take a look at some of the others. So as an instructor wanting to help them with that skill, and this has to do with note taking, encourage the students to do their reading or watch the video or listen to the lesson without taking notes. Don't take notes, just listen. Then if you're doing a lesson, or encourage them, if they're reading or watching, to stop, close the book, stop the video, and then write down everything that they remember that they heard or read, and then open the book and go back in and continue that process. Interesting concept, and a successful one. We'll see a little bit later some of the success stories, not success stories, but the success percentages on these strategies. So this, again, is from one of the articles that they had, and I will be sending that to you, that the 5 strategies that most students reported: rereading, marking or highlighting, taking notes, outlining, and flashcards. And in the article, they address the pitfalls, the reasons that these strategies are not effective, and then ways of helping implement those strategies, things that they can do if those are their preferred strategies to help themselves move through into the learning process. So I thought this was a pretty interesting. The whole article goes into why each of those strategies is not an effective study skill, the pitfalls for them, and then it does go into detail on how to optimize them if that's a tool that they're going to use, how to make it a little more effective. For retrieval, we're going to take a look at ways of developing a classroom culture, thinking about integrating the retrieval strategies into the classroom, teaching some specific strategies that they may not have considered as a strategy, and using it with regular practice. Bringing retrieval practice up just before a test or an exam is not a way of getting them to use them. So if you're encouraging and reinforcing retrieval practices throughout, starting right from the beginning, or like now, we're still in the beginning of the semester, and then teaching specific things, modeling them in class for the students, and then showing ways that they can do it are some of the ways of making it a culturally thing. So culturally piece. So we are going to start with one. Take a minute and a half to jot down, not in the chat necessarily, but well, not in the chat, but just on a piece of paper somewhere, everything you can think of regarding retrieval practice. Maybe something you knew, maybe something you heard.
I wrote down 7 things that I remembered.
Good. That's a great start.
And as small as that, this is research had been going on for 100 years, which that was
Yeah,
pretty interesting. Retrieval is out, not in. Um, you need to build these skills into the classroom.
good.
Most students read and highlight, which is just what I had said that I thought they did. So the interesting thing is, what they do most is probably the least effective.
Yeah,
um, so it was interesting to see that that's not very effective. And what an effective way would be, this was another point, is to teach them to read their materials, not write, and then close the book and write what they remember, just like we
mhm,
just did.
yeah,
That there are other various ways of students study, including flashcards and reviewing PowerPoints, and a lot of these have limitations. So
yeah.
that's what I wrote.
Beautiful. You did beautifully. Yes, and let me think. Something you said I was going to address, and then it left my head because I didn't write it down.
Oh, and I like the thing about low stakes, and I forgot to write that down because
Yeah,
I
well,
think,
Michelle caught that one
yeah,
for you.
yeah, because I think sometimes when you give like a quiz, but you say it's not going to count as a grade, uh, you'll just be you completed it or you didn't complete it, and
Yeah.
that helps them see what they're missing. When you do
Yes.
those,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And the rereading and the various other the highlighting and things that students do, if they according to some of the research, if they do it like cramming the night before the test, or the morning of the test, or whatever, they may, in all likelihood, do fairly well on the test, but they will forget it within a couple of days because rereading simply puts into their minds the thought that, well, I've read this over, I know this material, which is not necessarily accurate. So,
Mhm.
rereading over time is one of the tools, one of the ways of making sure it goes into their head. Someone mentioned reviewing the PowerPoints. And there again, if it's done over time, if we go back and take a look at the PowerPoints that from 2 weeks ago and review it, then it's going to be able to do a better job of getting into our head. So spacing things out, another one of the tools which I did not get written down, so I'll move into my next brain dump, which we just did, is one of the tools. The think, pair, share, which I know is something that most of us think of as a K-12 tool, but it is also useful in college. as long as you remember to start out with the think part, and then the two things, write down two things. We're going to try that one out in just a moment. But I also wanted to mention another tool that they refer to as interleaving, which is when you, as you're asking questions, you mix things up so that yes, there are things that we did last week, but there's also a couple of questions about something we did um, in the last module, or a couple of weeks ago, or a previous time, to use it in a math perspective. When students have a whole series of, well, let's do a K-12 example, a whole series of addition problems, and then you switch to a whole series of subtraction problems. They switch their mental gears. Whereas if you interleave them, mix up some addition and subtraction within there, then they have to really focus on the strategy. So several really great. There are some wonderful tools and activities. So let's take a minute and think about the two things. What are two strategies you want to discourage your students from doing? Jot on paper and then share. And you all have already gotten a good start on on that to get that homework done. One of the other strategies that was mentioned in I think in a video that I watched of hers was before as from a parent's perspective, before, and this is again a K-12 strategy, but certainly could work for anybody. Before they start their homework, do a quick question and answer period. Okay, so let's look. This is another one that was recommended, and I'm kind of hesitant, and yet as a self-assessment tool, or a very low stakes on mini quizzes, because if you're going to do any kind of points at all, just doing it for having completed it, and then, or it's also a great self-assessment tool, and easy to use for entry tickets and exit tickets. The two things are also great for an entry ticket or an exit ticket for class. So now I think you already spotted this one. So, two study strategies that you want to encourage your students to do. Okay, study in a group, pace your learning. Yep. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, sharing information in a group is a great tool. Collaborate. Yep, social learning makes a world of difference. And here's another one of the little the tips. These, as you can tell, came also from the website. As I said, there's a world of information on that website, and things that that are just, are really some great stuff. So, yep, that's how we learn, by making those mistakes, because that really puts it into our heads when we get to figure out what we did wrong. The idea of finding the misconceptions, which I think one of you mentioned. I think anyway, one of you mentioned that getting past the misconceptions, the things that we've gotten wrong. So this is some information about, and this article is on their website. They conducted a literature review on retrieval practice and how it benefits student learning. So they looked at, uh, yeah, looked at 1,800 abstracts and narrowed it down to 50. And here's some of the information from that. Included studies that included almost 6,000 students, so pretty cool. So the findings from their literature review: the majority of the effect sizes, that is 57%, demonstrated medium to large benefits from retrieval practice in authentic classrooms. So these research studies were done within classrooms and all grade levels, all the way through college. Well, and obviously medical school too, because they had some results from that. Um, However, that the 57% demonstrated medium to large benefits, but nearly all conditions yielded a benefit from retrieval practice. So there was not listed as working for specific conditions. It was not did not have anything to do with what the content area was, nor the ages of the students. It worked across the board for all of them. This is from their website in they have the research articles. They have, these are some of their booklets, and they have a lot more than that. They have, as I said, the articles, they have tips on the strategies. It's a really, it's a it's a fun website to visit, and I'm going to give you that information at the end. So this is some of the free resources they have there to download. There is also a listing of books, recommended books, and podcasts. And I have, yeah, gosh, there's some there I don't have. I have quite a few of these books. The book on powerful teaching is the one that Dr. Agarwal wrote with a colleague, uh, Patrice Bain. But they all are excellent, and the podcasts are also excellent. And I, of course, will send this presentation out to you later on at some point, either at the end of the day today or probably sometime tomorrow. So they've got a lot of books that are recommended, all of which, or all of them that I've read, they are wonderful. And so I thank you. The gift for you, thank you for the gift of your time and your willingness to share your thoughts and ideas, because that is what makes these types of sessions effective. And I'm extending here my personal thanks, sharing with you, letting you know that I'm sharing my personal thanks to the team. And it's retrievalpractice.org. And everything that they have is licensed under Creative Commons. So all is free to use. As you probably figured out, many of the slides in this page, in this session, were from, they have a downloadable PowerPoint presentation with the information. A lot of the slides came from that, and they have a couple of other things that are other presentations that are downloadable, like some questions that you might want to ask, like what's your least favorite ice cream flavor, just things like that that are designed to get us thinking. And so, with that, I thank you very much for joining me today, and I will be sending the information out to you. And I appreciate you being willing to share your time with us. Thank you so much.